On a chilly morning, a young boy walking home from school spotted a tiny, shivering puppy stranded in the middle of a bustling street. What he did next not only saved the puppy's life, but also changed his own in ways he could never have imagined. This heartwarming story began in a small, picturesque town nestled in rolling hills. 12-year-old Daniel was no stranger to helping those in need. Raised by a family that cherished compassion and kindness, Daniel often found joy in small acts of service, whether it was helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries or rescuing a bird with a broken wing. One crisp winter morning, the town was abuzz with the spirit of the upcoming holiday season. Streets were adorned with twinkling lights, and the aroma of fresh pastries wafted from local bakeries. Daniel, bundled in his warm scarf and coat, was making his way home after school. As he walked past the town square, the noise of cars and bustling pedestrians filled the air. But amidst the chaos, a faint whimper caught his attention. Daniel stopped in his tracks, scanning the area. His eyes widened when he spotted a small puppy in the middle of the busy street. The tiny creature, no more than a few months old, was trembling from the cold and clearly frightened by the honking cars that whizzed by. Its fur was matted, and it looked painfully thin, as though it hadn't eaten in days. Without hesitation, Daniel stepped closer to the edge of the sidewalk, his heart pounding. The traffic seemed relentless, and the puppy was frozen in fear, unable to move. Daniel's mind raced. He knew he had to act quickly, but the risk was high. Gathering all his courage, he waited for a brief lull in traffic and dashed into the street. Drivers slammed on their brakes, horns blaring as Daniel carefully scooped the puppy into his arms. The tiny creature whimpered softly but didn't resist, its dark eyes meeting Daniel's with a mix of fear and hope. Cradling the puppy against his chest, Daniel hurried back to the safety of the sidewalk, his breath visible in the cold air. Passers-by watched in awe, some clapping and others offering words of encouragement. A few stopped to ask if the boy needed help, but Daniel was already focused on his next steps. He couldn't just leave the puppy there. It needed shelter, food, and warmth. Walking down the bustling street, Danny's eyes widened as he spotted the small figure trembling near the edge of the road. His heart skipped a beat. There, amidst the chaos of honking cars and hurried footsteps, a tiny puppy sat, its fur matted and its eyes wide with fear. The little creature was clearly out of place, surrounded by the harshness of the city. Danny froze for a moment, his school bag slipping from his shoulder as he took in the sight. The puppy yelped softly, its voice barely audible over the urban din, yet it pierced through Danny's heart like a sharp blade. Without thinking, he stepped off the curb, ignoring the rush of cars, his instincts driving him forward. "Danny, stop!" a voice called from behind. It was his older sister, Sarah, who had been walking with him. She hurriedly grabbed his arm, pulling him back just as a car zoomed past, its tires screeching. "What are you doing?" she scolded, her voice a mix of fear and frustration. Danny pointed toward the trembling puppy. "Look at him, Sarah. He's all alone. We can't just leave him there." Sarah followed his gaze and softened at the sight. "It's not safe, Danny. Let's think this through." But Danny wasn't one to wait. He gently pulled away from her grasp and knelt on the sidewalk, stretching his hand out toward the puppy. The little dog flinched at first, its small body recoiling, but Danny stayed still, whispering softly, "Hey there, buddy. It's okay. I won't hurt you." The puppy's eyes, filled with a mixture of fear and hope, locked onto Danny's. Slowly, it inched forward, its paws barely touching the ground, until its nose brushed against Danny's fingers. Danny smiled, a warm feeling washing over him. "See? You're safe now," Sarah sighed, her protective instincts warring with her admiration for her brother's courage. "All right," she conceded, pulling out her phone. "Let's call Mom. She'll know what to do." As Sarah explained the situation to their mother, Danny focused entirely on the puppy. Its fur was dirty and tangled, and it looked far too thin for its size. "You must be so hungry," he murmured, carefully picking the puppy up. It didn't resist, curling into his arms as if it had found the first bit of safety it had known in a long time. When Sarah finished the call, she nodded toward Danny. "Mum said to bring it home. She'll help figure out what to do next." Danny's heart soared. He cradled the puppy close, shielding it from the noise and movement around them as they made their way home. The journey was short, but the connection between Danny and the puppy deepened with every step. By the time they arrived, the little dog had stopped trembling and was resting its head against Danny's chest, its trust slowly building. Their mother, Mrs. Thompson, met them at the door, her face a mix of concern and curiosity. "What have we here?" she asked, her tone gentle as she reached out to touch the puppy's head. The dog stiffened for a moment, but then relaxed under her soft touch. "It's all alone, Mom," Danny explained. "We couldn't just leave it." Mrs. Thompson smiled faintly. "So you did the right thing, Danny. Let's get it cleaned up and see what we're dealing with." In the kitchen, they filled a small basin with warm water. Sarah found an old towel, and Danny carefully placed the puppy into the makeshift bath. At first, the little dog squirmed, its tiny legs splashing water everywhere. But as Danny spoke softly to it, stroking its wet fur, it calmed down, leaning into his hand. Underneath the dirt, they discovered a beautiful golden coat. The puppy's eyes, now clearer, sparkled with gratitude. Mrs. Thompson brought out a small bowl of food, and the puppy eagerly devoured it, its tail wagging for the first time. Danny couldn't help but laugh. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" They decided to call the puppy Max. The name felt fitting for such a resilient little creature. As the day went on, Max seemed to come alive, exploring the house with cautious curiosity. He followed Danny everywhere, his tiny paws padding softly on the floor. It was as if he had chosen Danny as his protector, his safe place. That evening, as Danny lay in bed, Max curled up at his feet. He couldn't help but think about the moment they had first met. He had acted on instinct, driven by a sense of duty he hadn't fully understood at the time. Now, looking at Max, he felt a profound connection, as if fate had brought them together. But as he drifted off to sleep, a question lingered in his mind. Where had Max come from? And why had such a small, vulnerable puppy been left to fend for itself on a busy street? Unbeknownst to Danny, the answers to these questions would soon unfold, taking him and Max on a journey that would test their bond and reveal the true meaning of loyalty and love. The next morning, Danny woke to the soft nudge of a wet nose against his hand. He smiled, blinking away sleep to see Max standing on the bed, his little tail wagging furiously. "Good morning, buddy," Danny said, scratching behind Max's ears. It was as if the puppy had already decided that Danny was his person, his anchor in this strange new world. Downstairs, the Thompson family was gathered around the breakfast table. Sarah was scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing at Max, who was exploring the kitchen with boundless curiosity. Mrs. Thompson had set out a small bowl of scrambled eggs for him, and Max pounced on it with enthusiasm, eliciting a laugh from everyone. "He's really settled in fast," Sarah remarked, putting her phone down. "But what's the plan? Are we keeping him?" Danny's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't considered the possibility that Max might not stay. "Of course, we're keeping him," he blurted out, looking to his mum for confirmation. Mrs. Thompson sighed, her expression thoughtful. "I think we need to consider a few things, Danny. Max needs care, food, vet visits. Those things cost money." Danny's face fell. He glanced down at Max, who was now batting at the corner of the rug with his tiny paws, oblivious to the conversation about his future. "I can help, Mom," Danny said earnestly. "I'll do extra chores. I'll even use my allowance to buy his food." Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly. "I appreciate your determination, sweetheart. Let's take him to the vet first and make sure he's healthy. Then we can talk about the long term." Later that day, they bundled Max into the car and headed to the local animal clinic. The waiting room was filled with the sounds of barking dogs and meowing cats, but Max stayed close to Danny, his tiny body pressed against his leg. Danny could feel the puppy trembling and leaned down to whisper, "It's okay, Max. I'm here." The vet, Dr. Carter, was a kind woman with a soothing voice that immediately put both Danny and Max at ease. She examined Max carefully, checking his eyes, ears, and teeth. "He's a little underweight," she said, jotting down notes. "But overall, he's healthy. With some good food and plenty of love, he'll thrive." Danny beamed, and Mrs. Thompson let out a relieved sigh. "That's wonderful news," she said. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Carter handed them a small booklet. "This has tips on caring for young puppies. Follow these, and he'll grow up strong and happy." Back home, Danny threw himself into the task of caring for Max. He set up a cozy corner in his room with a soft blanket and a few toys. He read through the booklet cover to cover, absorbing every detail about feeding schedules, training tips, and healthcare. Max, for his part, seemed to understand that he had found a safe haven. He followed Danny everywhere, his tail wagging like a tiny flag of gratitude. But their idyllic days were soon interrupted by an unexpected challenge. One afternoon, as Danny was tossing a ball for Max in the backyard, a shadow fell across the fence. A man, unshaven and wearing a tattered jacket, was standing just beyond the property line. His eyes narrowed as he spotted Max. "That's my dog," the man said, his voice gruff. Danny froze, clutching the ball tightly. "What?" he managed to say, his heart pounding. "You heard me," the man growled. "That dog's mine. Found him wandering around the street, didn't you?" "Well, he ran off from me, but I want him back." Mrs. Thompson, hearing the commotion, stepped out onto the porch. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone firm but polite. "That's my dog," the man repeated, pointing at Max, who had now retreated behind Danny. His ears flattened against his head. Mrs. Thompson crossed her arms. "If this was your dog, why was he in such poor condition? He was dirty, starving, and terrified when we found him." The man bristled. "He's still mine. You have no right to keep him." Danny's fear turned to anger. He stepped forward, placing himself between Max and the man. "He's not going anywhere," he said, his voice shaking but resolute. "You didn't take care of him. He's my dog now." The man scowled but didn't argue further. Instead, he muttered something under his breath and stalked off down the street, leaving Danny and his family shaken. "Mom," Danny said, his voice barely above a whisper, "what if he comes back?" Mrs. Thompson placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll handle it, Danny. Don't worry. Max is part of our family now, and we'll protect him." That night, as Danny lay in bed with Max curled up at his side, he couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. No matter what, he would do whatever it took to keep Max safe. The days following the encounter with the strange man were marked by a new level of vigilance in the Thompson household. Mrs. Thompson installed a padlock on the backyard gate, and Danny took it upon himself to ensure that Max was never left alone outside. Despite the initial scare, the bond between Danny and Max only grew stronger. Every morning, Max would eagerly greet Danny with a flurry of tail wags and wet nose nudges. Danny had become his world, and the puppy's infectious energy quickly brightened the entire household. Sarah, who initially kept her distance, found herself sneaking treats to Max under the table. Even Mrs. Thompson, who had been hesitant at first, often stopped to scratch Max's ears or toss him a toy. One sunny afternoon, Danny decided it was time to introduce Max to the park. Armed with a sturdy leash and a pocketful of treats, he led Max down the tree-lined path toward the open field where other families played with their dogs. Max's eyes lit up at the sight of the wide-open space, his tail wagging furiously. "Ready, buddy?" Danny asked, and unclipping the leash. Max hesitated for a moment, looking up at Danny as if for permission. When Danny nodded, Max took off like a shot, bounding across the grass with unbridled joy. Danny laughed, running after him with the ball in hand. They played for what felt like hours, Max's puppy energy seeming endless as he chased the ball and brought it back to Danny with pride. As they rested on a bench, Danny noticed an elderly man walking a small, fluffy dog nearby. The man paused, watching Max with a warm smile. "He's a good-looking pup," the man said, approaching slowly. "Is he yours?" "Yes, sir," Danny replied, beaming. "His name's Max. We rescued him." The man nodded, his expression softening. "You've done a good thing. Dogs like him need someone who cares." The man introduced himself as Mr. Green and explained that his dog, Daisy, had also been a rescue. "She was abandoned as a puppy," he said, his voice tinged with sadness. "But now, she's my best friend." Hearing Mr. Green's story filled Danny with a renewed sense of pride in what he had done for Max. It also gave him hope that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, he was giving Max the life he deserved. Back at home, Danny decided to start working on teaching Max some tricks. Armed with a handful of treats, he began with simple commands. "Sit," he said, holding a treat above Max's head. Max tilted his head curiously but didn't move. "Come on, Max," Danny encouraged. "You can do it." After several attempts, Max finally sat, earning himself a treat and a shower of praise. From that moment, their training sessions became a daily routine. Max quickly learned sit, stay, and even how to give his paw. Danny marveled at how smart his furry companion was, and Max seemed to glow with pride every time he got something right. The bond between them deepened with each passing day, but Danny couldn't shake the memory of the man who had claimed Max was his. He knew he needed to be prepared for the possibility that the man might return. At Mrs. Thompson's suggestion, they began gathering evidence of their care for Max. They kept records of his vet visits, took photos of his progress, and even documented the story of how they had found him. One evening, as Danny sat on the floor playing with Max, he noticed a faint scar on the puppy's side. He gently ran his fingers over it, his heart aching at the thought of what Max might have endured before finding safety with the Thompsons. "I promise, buddy," Danny whispered. "No one's ever going to hurt you again." Their quiet moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. Danny's heart skipped a beat, his mind immediately flashing to the man from the street. Mrs. Thompson opened the door cautiously, but to their relief, it was just their neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. "I saw you and your pup at the park earlier," she said with a smile. "He's a beautiful dog. You're lucky to have found each other." "Thank you," Danny said, stepping forward with Max by his side. "He's the best." Mrs. Jenkins knelt to pet Max, who wagged his tail and licked her hand. "You've done a wonderful thing, Danny," she said. Not everyone would go to such lengths to care for an animal in need. That night, as Danny lay in bed with Max curled up beside him, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Despite the challenges they had faced, Max had brought a light into their lives that couldn't be dimmed. But little did they know, their biggest test was yet to come. A few weeks later, as the Thompson family settled into their evening routine, an unexpected knock echoed through the house. Mrs. Thompson, wiping her hands on a dish towel, approached the door with caution. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a worn jacket standing on the porch, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Can I help you?" she asked, cracking the door slightly. The man's gaze shifted uneasily. "I think you have my dog," he said, his voice gruff but low. "Mrs. Thompson's chest tightened. "Excuse me, the puppy," the man clarified. "The one you found on the street. He's mine." At that moment, Danny appeared in the hallway, Max padding happily at his side. The puppy stopped short, his tail wagging tentatively as he peered at the man. Danny instinctively placed a protective hand on Max's back. "I think you're mistaken," Mrs. Thompson said firmly. "This is our dog." The man's face hardened. "He was stolen from me," he insisted, his voice rising. "You have no right to keep him." Mrs. Thompson stood her ground. "This dog was abandoned in the middle of a busy street. My son rescued him. If you can prove he's yours, we can discuss this further." The man's eyes flickered with anger, but he didn't press the issue. "You haven't heard the last of this," he muttered before turning and walking away. As soon as the door closed, Mrs. Thompson turned to Danny, her expression stern but reassuring. "We need to be prepared, Danny. If he comes back, we'll have to show that Max belongs with us." Danny nodded, hugging Max tightly. "He's not taking him," he whispered. Over the next few days, the Thompsons took every precaution. They contacted their vet to document Max's health and care since his adoption. They also spoke with neighbors who had seen Danny rescue Max, asking for written statements about the puppy's condition when he was found. Mrs. Jenkins was one of the first to step forward, offering a detailed account of how Danny had saved Max and the love she'd witnessed between them. Despite their preparations, the encounter left Danny shaken. Max seemed to sense his unease, sticking closer to him than ever. At night, the puppy would curl up on Danny's bed, resting his head on the boy's chest as if to say, "I'm here." One crisp Saturday morning, Danny and Max headed to the park for their usual playtime. As they approached the field, Danny noticed a man watching them from a distance. It was the same man from their doorstep. "Let's go home, Max," Danny whispered, turning back toward the path. But the man began walking toward them, his strides quick and determined. "Wait!" the man called out. Danny froze, his heart racing. Max, sensing his fear, growled softly. "I just want to talk," the man said, holding up his hands in what seemed like a gesture of peace. "Please." Danny hesitated, but stood his ground, gripping Max's leash tightly. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice trembling. The man sighed, his expression softening. Look, kid, I'm not trying to scare you, I just want to explain. Danny glanced around, hoping to spot someone nearby. The park was unusually empty, but he could see Mrs. Jenkins walking her dog in the distance. Summoning his courage, he said, "Okay, talk." The man crouched slightly, his eyes level with Danny's. "I didn't take care of him the way I should have," he admitted. "He was too much for me to handle, and I didn't know how to be the kind of owner he needed. I was wrong to leave him like that." Danny blinked, caught off guard by the man's candor. "I see now that he's happy with you," the man continued. "You've done what I couldn't, and for that, I'm grateful." Danny studied the man's face, searching for signs of deceit, but all he saw was regret. "If you're grateful, why did you say he was yours?" Danny asked. The man sighed. "Because I didn't want to admit I failed. Seeing him with you, healthy, happy, it made me realize how badly I messed up." Danny's grip on the leash loosened slightly, but he didn't let go. "Max is part of my family now," he said firmly. "I know," the man replied, "and I'm not going to take him away from you. I just needed to say that I'm sorry for what I did to him and for how I acted toward you." Danny's heart softened, though he remained cautious. "If you're really sorry, then leave him alone. Let him stay where he belongs." The man nodded. "I will." As the man walked away, Danny felt a mix of relief and empathy. He crouched down to hug Max, who licked his face enthusiastically. "You're safe, buddy," he whispered. "No one's going to hurt you." As the days passed, the encounter with the man became a distant memory, though it lingered in the back of Danny's mind. Max, ever intuitive, seemed to sense Danny's occasional moments of reflection and would nuzzle him reassuringly. The boy and his puppy grew closer than ever, their bond solidifying with each shared moment. One weekend, the Thompsons decided to take Max to a nearby animal park that hosted agility and obedience classes. Danny was eager to see how Max would react to a new environment and activities. The park was buzzing with families and their pets, each dog wagging its tail with excitement. Danny held Max's leash tightly as they approached a registration booth. A kind-looking trainer, Mrs. Harper, greeted them warmly. "Welcome. Is this your first time here?" she asked. Danny nodded. "Yeah, this is Max. He's pretty amazing." Mrs. Harper smiled. "I can see that. He has a great energy about him. Would you like to try the agility course?" Danny glanced at Max, whose tail was wagging furiously. "What do you think, boy? Want to give it a shot?" Max barked enthusiastically, and Danny laughed. "I guess that's a yes." The course was set up with a variety of obstacles: hurdles, tunnels, and weaving poles. Danny led Max to the starting line, his heart pounding with anticipation. "Okay, Max," he whispered. "Let's show them what you can do." At the trainer's signal, Danny released the leash and gave Max a gentle nudge. To everyone's amazement, Max darted through the course with agility and speed. He soared over the hurdles, zipped through the poles, and bolted through the tunnels as if he'd been training for years. The crowd gathered around, clapping and cheering as Max crossed the finish line, his tail wagging proudly. Danny ran to his puppy, kneeling down to hug him tightly. "You were incredible, Max. I'm so proud of you." Mrs. Harper approached, her eyes wide with admiration. "Danny, Max has a natural talent. With some training, he could compete in agility championships." Danny's eyes lit up. "Really? That would be amazing." Mrs. Harper nodded. "If you're interested, I'd be happy to coach you both. It's clear you two have a special connection." Over the following weeks, Danny and Max began attending weekly training sessions at the park. Max's progress was astounding, and his confidence grew with each success. The once abandoned puppy was now thriving, his playful spirit shining brighter than ever. One crisp autumn morning, as Danny and Max walked home from a training session, they passed by the street where Danny had first found Max. Danny paused, a wave of memories washing over him. "This is where it all started, buddy," he said, scratching Max behind the ears. As they stood there, a faint whimpering sound caught Danny's attention. He turned, scanning the area, and spotted a small, scruffy dog huddled near a dumpster. Its fur was matted, and it shivered in the cool air. "Max, look," Danny whispered. Max tilted his head, his ears perking up. Without hesitation, Danny approached the little dog, kneeling down to get a better look. "Hey there. It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The dog flinched but didn't run. Danny extended his hand, letting the dog sniff him. Slowly, it inched closer, its big, frightened eyes locking onto Danny's. "You're all alone, huh?" Danny said, his voice gentle. Max stepped forward, wagging his tail and giving a soft bark. The little dog's ears twitched and it seemed to relax slightly in Max's presence. Danny smiled. "Looks like Max is already your friend." Danny scooped up the scruffy dog carefully, cradling it in his arms. "We're going to take you home and get you cleaned up," he said. "You're safe now." Back at the Thompson household, the family rallied to help the new addition. They bathed the little dog, revealing patches of golden fur beneath the dirt and tangles. After a warm meal and some gentle care, the dog began to show signs of trust, curling up beside Max on the living room rug. "What are you going to name her?" Mrs. Thompson asked, as Danny sat beside the two dogs. Danny thought for a moment, watching the little dog's tail wag tentatively. "How about Lucky, because she's lucky we found her?" Mrs. Thompson smiled. "I think that's perfect." Lucky quickly adapted to her new home, following Max and Danny everywhere they went. The two dogs became inseparable, their playful antics filling the house with laughter. Watching them together, Danny felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had not only saved one life, but now two, and his heart swelled with pride and gratitude. The days of Max's abandonment were a distant memory, replaced by a life filled with love, adventure, and second chances. And as Danny lay in bed at night, both Max and Lucky curled up beside him. He knew that this was only the beginning of their incredible journey. News of Danny's rescue of Max and Lucky quickly spread through the neighborhood. Word traveled from one household to the next about the boy who had not only saved an abandoned puppy, but also extended his kindness to another helpless dog. The Thompsons' home became a small sanctuary of warmth and care, inspiring others to show more compassion toward animals. One weekend, the local community center invited Danny and his family to share their story during a Pet Appreciation Day event. Excited yet nervous, Danny prepared to speak in front of a gathering of neighbors, animal enthusiasts, and children. When the day arrived, Danny stood on the small stage, Max sitting obediently by his side, while Lucky wagged her tail shyly behind him. "Hi everyone," Danny began, his voice steady despite the dozens of eyes watching him. "I want to tell you how these two amazing dogs changed my life." Danny recounted the moment he found Max on the busy street and how he couldn't ignore the puppy's desperate plea for help. "I knew I couldn't just walk away," he said, looking down at Max, and who gazed back with adoration. "And I think Max knew too. He trusted me, even when he had no reason to trust anyone." The crowd listened intently as Danny described the transformation Max underwent, from a scared and scrappy pup to a confident, loving companion. He spoke about finding Lucky and how Max had played a key role in helping her adjust to her new life. "Max taught me that when you show kindness, you can change a life," Danny continued. "But what I didn't expect was how much they'd change mine." His words resonated deeply with the audience, and by the end of his story, the room erupted in applause. Several people approached Danny afterward, expressing their admiration for his compassion and asking how they could help animals in need. Among the attendees was Mrs. Harper, the trainer who had introduced Danny and Max to agility training. She approached Danny and the Thompsons with a big smile. "Danny, I've been watching Max at the park, and he's an exceptional dog," she said. "I think he has the potential to compete at a professional level." Danny's eyes widened. "You really think so?" Mrs. Harper nodded. "Absolutely, and I'd like to sponsor him for an upcoming regional competition. It could be a great opportunity to showcase what he can do." The Thompsons exchanged glances, their excitement evident. "What do you think, Danny?" Mr. Thompson asked. Danny looked at Max, who tilted his head as if waiting for an answer. "Let's do it," Danny said with a grin. "Max is ready." The weeks leading up to the competition were filled with rigorous training sessions. Danny and Max spent hours at the agility course, perfecting their timing and coordination. Lucky often joined them, barking encouragement from the sidelines. Despite the hard work, Danny made sure to keep the training fun for Max. He rewarded him with treats, belly rubs, and plenty of praise. "You're a star, buddy," Danny would say after every session, ruffling Max's ears. The community rallied around them, offering support and cheering them on. Neighbors dropped by with homemade dog treats, while others helped Danny practice his presentation for the competition's introduction segment. When the day of the competition finally arrived, The atmosphere at the arena was electric. Dozens of competitors had gathered with their dogs, each one eager to showcase their skills. The air buzzed with excited barks and laughter as the event got underway. Danny felt a mix of nerves and excitement as he and Max waited for their turn. "Mrs." Harper crouched beside him, offering encouragement. "You've got this, Danny. Just trust Max and he'll do the rest." When their names were called, Danny took a deep breath and led Max to the starting line. The crowd fell silent, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. "Are you ready, Max?" Danny whispered. Max barked, his tail wagging furiously. At the signal, Max took off like a rocket. He soared over hurdles, zipped through weaving poles, and darted through tunnels with incredible speed and precision. The crowd erupted in cheers as Max crossed the finish line, his tail held high in triumph. Danny knelt down to hug his furry best friend. "You did it, Max. I'm so proud of you." When the winners were announced, Danny and Max took home first place in their division. The audience cheered wildly as they accepted their trophy, Max wagging his tail proudly beside Danny. But the real reward, Danny realized, wasn't the trophy. It was the journey he and Max had shared. From a scared puppy on a busy street to a champion on the agility course, Max had come a long way. And through it all, their bond had only grown stronger. As the sun set on the competition, Danny looked down at Max and Lucky, who sat happily by his side. "We're a team," he said, smiling. "And this is just the beginning of our adventure." As Danny and his family drove home from the competition, the trophy gleaming in the back seat, he couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed since that fateful day he found Max on the busy street. The once neglected puppy had not only become his loyal companion but also a symbol of hope and resilience. Lucky, too, had blossomed under the care of her new family, her shy demeanor replaced by a gentle confidence. Later that evening, the Thompsons celebrated with a small gathering at home. Neighbors and friends came by to congratulate Danny and meet the now famous Max and Lucky. The dogs basked in the attention, accepting treats and belly rubs from everyone. "Danny, Mrs." Harper said as she handed him a framed photo of him and Max crossing the finish line. "You've shown everyone what kindness and dedication can achieve. You should be really proud." Danny smiled, his cheeks flushing. "Thank you. But I couldn't have done it without Max and everyone here." Danny's story continued to inspire those around him. Encouraged by his journey, the community organized a monthly Pet Rescue Day, where volunteers could help care for abandoned animals and raise awareness about adoption. Danny was often invited to speak at these events, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to open their hearts to animals in need. Max and Lucky became unofficial mascots of the initiative, their story serving as a testament to the transformative power of love and compassion. Children who attended the events would gather around the two dogs, eager to pet them and hear Danny recount how they became a family. The Thompsons also noticed changes in their neighborhood. More people began adopting pets from shelters, and the once overlooked animal rescue organization received an outpouring of support in donations and volunteers. It was as if Danny's small act of kindness had ignited a movement, proving that one good deed could spark many more. One quiet afternoon, months after the competition, Danny and Max were walking through the park when a woman approached them. She looked vaguely familiar, her eyes soft with recognition. "Excuse me," she said hesitantly. "Is this Max?" Danny nodded. His curiosity piqued. "Yes, he is." The woman's face broke into a smile. "I'm Clara, the woman who called animal control the day you found him. I just wanted to tell you how happy I am to see him so well cared for." Danny's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you for helping him. I'm so glad I found him that day." Clara knelt down to pet Maxon, who wagged his tail enthusiastically. "He's lucky to have you," she said, her voice warm, "and you're lucky to have him." As they parted ways, Danny couldn't stop smiling. The brief encounter was a poignant reminder of how interconnected their lives had become, all because of a single moment of compassion. As the years passed, Danny and Max's bond only deepened. Together, they continued to participate in agility competitions, raising funds for animal shelters and inspiring others to adopt pets in need. Lucky found her own niche as a therapy dog, visiting hospitals and nursing homes to bring comfort to those who needed it most. Danny often reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. He remembered the chaos of that busy street, the desperation in Max's eyes, and the overwhelming sense of responsibility he had felt. It hadn't been an easy path, but it was one he wouldn't trade for anything. One day, while sitting on the porch with Max and Lucky at his feet, Danny turned to his parents. "I want to do more for animals," he said. "Maybe even start my own rescue center someday." Victoria and Mr. Thompson exchanged proud smiles. "We'll support you every step of the way," his mother said. Years later, Danny's dream of opening a rescue center became a reality. The center, named Max's Haven, stood as a beacon of hope for animals in need. Its walls were adorned with photos of rescues and their stories, each one a testament to the power of kindness. Max, now older but still spry, became the center's ambassador, greeting visitors and offering comfort to newly rescued animals. Lucky, ever the nurturing soul, took on the role of mentor, helping timid animals adjust to their new surroundings. Standing in the middle of the bustling center, Danny watched as volunteers worked tirelessly to care for the animals. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that what started as a simple act of compassion had grown into something so much bigger. He knelt beside Max, scratching him behind the ears. "Look at what you started, buddy," he said with a grin. "You're a hero." Max wagged his tail as if to say, "We did this together." Danny's story serves as a powerful reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can have far-reaching effects. His journey with Max and Lucky touched countless lives, proving that love and compassion can heal even the deepest wounds. And as the sun set over Max's Haven, the center buzzed with life, a living legacy of one boy's decision to save a helpless puppy from a busy street.